Hello and welcome to another episode of Comics and Characters 101. Since the live-action movie will be released soon, I thought today I would introduce an anime and manga that is dear to my heart, Saint Seiya. Also known as Knights of the Zodiac. What is Saint Seiya? Saint Seiya was released almost simultaneously as a manga and anime in 1986. It was created by manga writer and artist Masami Kurumada. In the universe of Saint Seiya, every 200 years or so, the goddess of war, Athena, is reborn in order to fight in the Battle of the Gods. This war has her fighting against other gods from the Greek pantheon, such as Poseidon, Ares, Hades, and others. However, even though she is the goddess of war, she does not believe in conquest and only fights defensive wars. A group of youths follow and fight for Athena and are willing to die for her. They are known as saints or knights. But Athena despises weapons, so these knights rarely use them, if ever, and use only their bodies as weapons. Because of that, they develop power strong enough to rend the skies and split the earth beneath them. They do so by controlling the cosmos energy within them. By creating micro Big Bangs, they are able to achieve the impossible. Cosmos is similar to the Force found in Star Wars. Each knight is born under their own star constellation. Because there are 88 constellations, there are 88 knights. They wear armors called cloths that represent their individual constellation. When the knights are not wearing their armors form their individual star constellation totems, which seem to have some level of awareness themselves. Today, the new Athena has been reborn in young Sayori Kido and is ready to fight in the Battle of the Gods. However, something is wrong at Sanctuary, the home of the Temple of Athena and the training ground for the knights. The Pope, or Grand Master, who presides over Sanctuary until the return of Athena, has actually ordered the death of Sayori, claiming she is a false Athena. Athena, or Sayori, puts on a battle of the knights called the Galaxian Wars. There, the knights fight, hoping to win a piece of the gold Sagittarius cloth. Knowing battles for self-gain or public adoration is against the code of the knights and punishable by death, Sayori knew it would draw her enemies out and help her find true knights that have not been corrupted by the Pope. Seiya, a young Japanese orphan, recently acquired his Pegasus cloth in Greece and fights in the Galaxian Wars, hoping the publicity will help him to find his long-lost sister. In the Galaxian Wars, we meet the other three main characters, Dragon Shiryu, Cygnus Hyoga, and Andromeda Shun, as well as a fifth anti-hero, a loner, and a villain turned hero, Phoenix Ikki. These five knights make up the bottom tier of knights called the Bronze Knights. The second tier are the Silver Knights, knights much more powerful than Bronze. And then finally, the godlike Gold Knights. The 12 signs of the Zodiac make up the 12 Gold Knights, with the 13th Ophiuchus Gold Knight being legendary but gone since the previous Battle of the Gods. Seiya, Shun, Hyoga, Shiryu, and Ikki helped to save Athena and the Earth against an evil corrupt pope, a war against Poseidon and his own warriors who wear scales instead of cloths, and a war against Hades, lord of the underworld, and his warriors that wear surplices instead of cloths. Spin-offs and other versions. Saint Seiya was extremely popular and continues to thrive. It is one of the greatest anime manga of all time. Besides the original 114 episodes and the additional 31 that finished the Hades chapter, Saint Seiya has spawned numerous anime and manga spin-offs, such as The Lost Canvas in 2009 with 26 episodes, Saint Seiya Omega in 2012 with 97 episodes, Soul of Gold in 2015 with 13 episodes, Saintia Sho in 2018 with 10 episodes, and a CGI remake in 2018 with 24 episodes so far and at least 12 more are coming. There are also 5 animated movies spanning from 1987 to 2004, plus a 6th CGI animated film, Legend of Sanctuary, which retells the Battle of Sanctuary and is separate from the CGI series remake. Then you have the manga, which also had The Lost Canvas Gaiden, Saintia Sho, Episode G Assassin, Episode G Requiem, and Darkwing. Masami Kurumada himself even returned for sequels and prequels such as Episode 0, Origin, Destiny, and The Re-Rise of Poseidon. as well as the ongoing Next Dimension, which hit its 14th volume recently with 102 chapters so far, but is set to end and will probably end up with 16 volumes total. Next Dimension is simultaneously a sequel and a prequel of the original Saint Seiya series. Taking place after the Hades chapter, Seiya is nearly brain dead and confined to a wheelchair after his battle with Hades. Athena wants to go back in time to try and save Seiya. She is tricked by Kronos, the god of time, and sent back as a baby to the previous battle of the gods 240 years ago. There we see a whole different group of Gold Knights. We see Doko and Shion in their prime, and a 13th Gold Knight is introduced embodying the 13th Zodiac sign of Ophiuchus, the Serpent Bearer. Saint Seiya can also be found with endless toy lines, multiple video games, and now, finally, a live-action movie. Some of the many differences between the alternate versions. The original anime was slightly different than the manga. Since they were released at roughly the same time, the anime needed to create filler stories so it wouldn't get too far ahead of the manga. Some of these differences were actually pretty great. The anime introduced a new trainer for Cygnus Hyoga and potential new group of knights called the Crystal Knights. The anime also introduced a group of technologically based knights known as Steel Knights. They were created to help combat the evil knights in case the gold, silver, or bronze knights failed or needed assistance. The manga implies all 100 boys selected to train as knights are all actually half-brothers. When Mitsumasu Kido, or Lord Nobu as they call him in North America, came across the dying Sagittarius Gold Knight who was holding the baby Athena, the knight told him what was coming. Kido then took it upon himself to raise Athena as his granddaughter, as well as locate the 100 bastard boys he had already fathered all over the world in order to train them to become knights. Then he created the Grodd Foundation, posed it as an orphanage, and collected all 100 boys. In the anime, only the Shun-Ikki brother relationship is established since they had the same mother and grew up together. They were very close in both versions, and it plays a very significant part in the story. The biggest difference was the addition of an entirely new saga known as Asgard. In the anime's Asgard chapter, the Bronze Knight face off against Norse myth-themed knights. And of course, Seiya gets a temporary new armor bestowed upon him by Odin himself. Legend of Sanctuary, the CGI animated film, saw the characters completely redesigned. They wore helmets that covered their faces, the storyline was condensed to fit in a 2-hour movie, and instead of carrying around these huge Pandora boxes with their armors in them, now a necklace with a pendant opens up a portal, releasing the armors. The new remake condenses the story and removes any filler, which can be a good thing, but it also has a few controversial changes. They unnecessarily changed the names of many characters. Tatsumi became Mylock, Sayori became Sienna, Shiryu became Long, Hyoga became Magnus, and the one name change I hate the most, Phoenix Ikki, became Phoenix Nero. Why they named him after a much-hated Roman leader, I'll never understand. Ikki has a story of redemption. He isn't meant to be hated. But the change that most people really hate was the Shun change. The CGI show turned Shun into a female, which on one end I could see why they wanted more female characters, but also on the other end, in today's day and age, all they had to do is make Shun gay, and the legacy isn't damaged at all while also having representation and diversity. They could have created new characters to have more females if they needed them. The show also chose to utilize the pendant idea over the bulky Pandora box. Another big difference early on is that in the original, Mitsumasa Kido is the only one that was there when he found the Sagittarius Gold Saint Aeolios, who was holding the baby Sayori, who would become Athena. Aeolios entrusted baby Athena to Kido and told him of the evils in Sanctuary and what was to come with the Battle of the Gods. Kido then took it upon himself to raise Sayori as his granddaughter and to prepare for the upcoming war. But in the CGI remake, Kido is accompanied by a new character, Garad, when they find Aeolios. After hearing Aeolios' story, Kido and Garad draw very different conclusions as to what should be done going forward. So different, in fact, that they actually become enemies. Garad wants to harness the power of Cosmos so humans can become gods themselves, and he believes Sayori's existence is a danger to humanity. He becomes the creator of the Black Knights in hopes of rivaling the True Knights. Now, the biggest difference is the prophecy. As of this writing, we don't know where the CGI show is going, but it's implied that by letting Athena live, Hades will actually win the Battle of the Gods and enslave all of mankind. At least, that is what the Pope tells the Gold Knights as to why he intends to kill her. That is not what the original prophecy was about. The original one was about the greatest eclipse, a time where the planets are aligned just right that the Earth does not receive any of the sun's rays, and that Hades intends to lock the planets in that position so Earth and everything on it dies and becomes possessions of the underworld and ruled by Hades. The reason the Pope wants to kill Athena is not even related to the greatest eclipse. He has his own agenda and secrets. Now, I don't want to spoil it in case this gets you interested in the show, because it is kind of a nice twist. The interesting thing about the CGI remake is that it seems to incorporate ideas from the original Saint Seiya series as well as the sequel, The Next Dimension. The series opens showing the Craterus Cup, but that wasn't actually introduced until The Next Dimension. The Craterus Cup is actually the armor totem of character Suikyo from The Next Dimension, and if you look at the reflection in water while it's in the cup, you can see the future. The Pope or Grandmaster uses the cup to convince the Gold Knights that killing Athena is the right thing to do, despite being a complete contradiction to the point of their very existence. Besides future telling, water from the cup can also heal the wounded or injured. Despite the cup's appearance, the prophecy in The Next Dimension is actually a separate prophecy from the modern age prophecy. The prophecy 240 years ago said they needed to kill the Athena that comes from the future in order to let their own Athena be born and save the world. Overall, even though the show is hated by some true Saint Seiya fans, I'm thoroughly enjoying the CGI remake. I love the look of it, and my kids got interested because of it. Now we can share that as an interest. I can always go back and read the original manga or watch the original anime to get the version I actually prefer, but this version ensures it has fans with the newer generation. The new movie. The new movie looks to be just about Seiya, so many longtime Saint Seiya fans may be disappointed not seeing their favorites like Hyuga, Shiryu, or Shun. But it looks like the plan is for 6 movies, so they will be introduced in the sequels. But they must want to secure the importance of Seiya himself while world building at the same time. Too much too fast is also too expensive. They need to secure interest in Saint Seiya as a live action franchise before upping the budget for the Galaxian Wars, the Poseidon War, or the Hades chapter. I'm guessing this movie shows Seiya being recruited, training, fighting Grodd, and saving Athena from her. In the CGI series, Grodd is a male, but here Grodd is a female played by Famke Janssen. Grodd sends her assassin, Phoenix Iki, to stop Seiya for the climactic battle. Technically, this would be a premature entrance for Iki, but I'm assuming it ends with Seiya defeating Iki and Iki disappearing or dying at the end. Then Seiya enters the Galaxian Wars, to be continued until part 2. The sequel could see the return of Iki as the main antagonist, and even stronger since he can reincarnate like his star constellation, the Phoenix. Now, I'm not a fan of the armor designs that I've seen for the film, but they can always get new armors in sequels just as they do in the anime and manga. I hope fans support the film, I really do, because I would love to see all 6 films. A live-action Saint Seiya saga could be epic, and seeing the Battle of Sanctuary, War Against Poseidon, and the excellent Hades chapter come to life would be amazing. Plagued by cancellations. Saint Seiya seems plagued by cancellations. This is most likely due to the redundant storyline of Sayori getting captured, the Bronze Knights having a time limit to rescue her, and along the way fighting similar knights to save her. The basic premise was recycled in the main sagas of Sanctuary, Poseidon, and Hades, and even in the original stories of Asgard and the original animated movies that were released. Ironically though, it's those traits that make the anime and manga so much fun in the beginning. In Japan, the anime was cancelled before the storyline was complete. Fans were worn out of the endless battles after the previous chapters and the additional Asgard chapter, and because of it missed out on the best chapter, the Hades chapter. Hades was a culmination of everything prior. It discussed the prophecy, introduced the main antagonist, Hades himself, and was the point of the entire show. The point of Athena's rebirth was to fight Hades in the Battle of the Gods, a war that happens roughly every 200 years. By getting cancelled right before the Hades chapter, fans were deprived of seeing Athena become more than just a damsel in distress. She became a warrior who donned her own god cloth and helped Seiya and the other Bronze Knights defeat Hades. Fortunately, Saint Seiya has a staying power that eventually brought the anime back nearly 20 years later as original video animations, or OVAs. They animated the Hades chapter starting in 2002. The first part was 13 episodes. The second part, which came out in 2005, was 6 episodes, and the final 6th episode, known as Hades Elysium, were released in 2008, and Japan finally got to see the entire saga of Saint Seiya animated. In the US, where it took entirely too long to reach, it was retitled into Knights of the Zodiac in 2003. It was highly censored and never caught on with the kids of the time since it had animation from the 80s. It had a more loyal translation from ADV, but they too lost their license after only 60 episodes, so the Sanctuary saga wasn't even complete, let alone ever reaching Asgard, Poseidon, or Hades. Fortunately, Netflix did their own translation and released the original 114 episodes through Poseidon with a new dub. Netflix also released Saint Seiya: The Lost Canvas with subtitles. The Lost Canvas is a spin-off set in an alternate universe, and it tells of the previous battle of the gods nearly 240 years ago. Though the manga saw the series completed with 231 chapters in 26 volumes, the anime was canceled prematurely with only 26 episodes. Who knows, maybe one day in 20 years they will animate the rest of that one as well. Other series that were canceled prematurely were Saintia Sho. Saintia Sho told the tale of the maidens of Athena, female knights who had their own armors and worked even closer to Athena than the other knights. But it was canceled after only one season, which is unfortunate since the second half of the manga was very exciting. We got to see the Gold Knights fight Ares, the god of war, and the maidens meet Athena's sister Artemis. The CGI remake, Knights of the Zodiac, was also removed from Netflix after only 12 episodes. Fortunately, it was picked up by Crunchyroll, where 12 more episodes have been produced and a third season is on the way. So as popular as the franchise is, it seems Cancellations also follow it everywhere. Inspiration and impact. Saint Seiya was a massive hit worldwide, everywhere it went, except the US, where it took too long to reach. By the time it reached the US, the animation looked old and storytelling had evolved. Not to mention shows that were inspired by it had already come to the US, making it look like it was a ripoff. Because Power Rangers were so popular in the 90s, when they were trying to license Saint Seiya, they wanted to convert it to a live-action series and even filmed a pilot. Sample footage of the pilot was revealed by Ray Mona in her recent video about Saint Seiya. The link to her video is in the description. Fortunately, Kurumada saw the footage and was able to shoot it down since he still controls the rights. Now, again, by today's standards, Saint Seiya's animation, storytelling, and story may seem a bit basic, but at the time it was released, it was a groundbreaking anime and manga. And despite it all, when it's all said and done, Masami Kurumada actually managed to weave an interesting, fun, and somewhat complex story with some engaging characters and some good twists along the way. So good, in fact, that it inspired so many other properties such as the popular Gundam franchise with Gundam Wing, the Samurai series Ronin Warriors, and many others. I would even argue that it inspired Dragon Ball Z to a degree. Dragon Ball had already been airing, but Z suddenly had their hair change color, indicating them leveling up. But Saint Seiya already did that with the Gold Knight armors acting as a level up for the Bronze Knights. Not to mention the character of Saga having his hair color change depending upon the scenario. I would like to add that it seems to have inspired many US properties as well, ranging from DC's Blackest Night comic book event to the long-running Supernatural series. But I'll get into those comparisons in the next 2 episodes of Rip Off or Not. And I'm not ashamed to say that in some ways Saint Seiya has influenced my own comic book work. Overall, if you like anime, superheroes, knights, or mythology, Saint Seiya may be the one for you. I highly suggest checking it out. Check it out for the theme song if nothing else. The Saint Seiya anime boasts the best theme song in television history, animated or otherwise. If you find the anime quality to be too old or slowly paced, check out the CGI remake. Or maybe just read the manga. It's available on Comixology. Or maybe just check out the movie and see it with a fresh pair of eyes. Either way, I think you'll enjoy it and quickly see why this property has lasted so long. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for future content.